From near total victory to total defeat in just over a year. Why did Essex, in every one of its districts, vote to leave the EU? The answer lies in our social history.
I mean, all the shops are so bright and clean and everything.
And the opportunities afforded to my grandparents' generation.
Where did you come from?
Stoke Newington.
Do you prefer this to Stoke Newington?
Oh, good heavens, yes, rather.
Complicating, circulating, new life, new life.
In the early 50s, my grandparents, like thousands of others, came down the A127 to Basildon. And in truth, they were chasing a dream. For with the building of these new towns, thousands of working class families suddenly found themselves in a brand new town, in a brand new house, with brand new amenities. But much more importantly than that, they for the first time in their lives felt a sense of control. They felt a sense of self-empowerment that they'd never had before.
It's an important part of the story of Essex and of my family.
Basildon's promise of jobs was real. My granddad, Bill, slept on the steps of the rotary hose factory just behind those trees until they gave him a job, because that's how you got a council house. And my dad worked here at Ford Tractors from 1969 until he retired.
I grew up here and in nearby Wickford. Living in Essex instilled in me a desire to get on in life, to grab the chances that I was given and run with them. And the same goes for my brothers and sisters. The all-important step up for us came when my mum and dad were able to buy their council house.
From Brownlow Green to here was a big jump.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. Imagine how Mum and Dad must have felt.
Yeah. And then to be able to buy it.
Yeah.
I've always looked to my family for advice on politics, but on Brexit, rather unhelpfully, they couldn't agree. So, same upbringing, same values. You both run businesses in Essex, and yet you, Paul, were very strongly pro-Brexit, and you, Amanda, were pro-Remain.
For me, it was purely based on stability, local businesses. I'm very passionate about us all progressing and doing really well. And I had to think about my staff and the situation there. We've been through a really big recession a few years ago, so we needed to get stable. And I also felt there were pros on leaving, but it felt like a campaign. It felt like an ego campaign.
From the politicians, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just feel this country now has lost, or had lost its identity. It couldn't make decisions when it needed to, and actually it was like running a business with your hands tied behind your back. It's never about David Cameron. It was never about the Conservative Party. It was about the people of this country having a choice. They made the decision was to Brexit, and now we should just be rolling our sleeves up, moving on and getting on with it.
So this will have another piece well bolted on the end.
Canvey businessman Brian Keenlyside couldn't be more eager to get on with it, and couldn't have been happier with the result.
I was really surprised. I was elated. I ran upstairs shouting to my wife that we're out. I thought it was fantastic. It was as good as watching Froome the other day on his bike, and he came off and he got up and he ran to the finish. It's just so exciting at the moment. Politics at the moment is better than watching England play football.
So for Brian, a man who built a railway construction firm from scratch that uses German steel welded by a workforce that includes other Europeans, Brexit is not only favourable, but it's entirely doable.
There's a sort of straightforward narrative, if you like, about the vote generally across the country, but also specifically about Essex. The immigration was the absolute driving issue.
I mean, I've got Polish people working for me. I've got 2 Polish guys. I've got 3 Romanians, really good workers, and they pay their taxes. I haven't got a problem with any of them.
When the history of David Cameron's downfall is written, it's likely to be blamed on his decision to call a referendum.
But in truth, the miscalculation that mattered came long before. He was anxious about addressing immigration because he believed quite correctly that if he did so, he'd be portrayed as being rabidly right-wing, that to try and move the debate onto calmer territory was just impossible. As a result, he couldn't do enough, quickly enough, to address the anti-Europe, but also the anti-establishment, the anti-politics mood that was developing in places like Essex. He got it right on MPs' expenses, but on these complicated issues of control, and on immigration itself, he was cautious.
He wasn't alone, of course. The majority of senior politicians from the three main parties were looking in entirely the wrong direction. By the time the referendum campaign started and Leave upped the ante on immigration, it was just too late.
When there was the referendum day, there was some talk about the Remain campaign being 10 points ahead. I just knew that was, absolutely knew that was cloud cuckoo land. The Remain campaign presented the public with an alphabet spaghetti of acronyms of organisations that most people have never heard of. The IMF, the OECD, the IFS and countless others. And you're struggling to keep your head above water and you're presented with an alphabet of acronyms that your life is going to get worse. How can it get any worse? Politicians and community leaders make a huge mistake if they just think this was about immigration.
Politicians have always come to Basildon, but sometimes they've got it horribly wrong. Like the Miliband brothers who, during the 2010 election, compared my then boss to Gene Hunt. They totally misunderstood that in Basildon, they'd happily elect straight-talking Gene as mayor. So we made it our own and doubled the print run.
Right, let's fire up the Quattro.
I think that Westminster talked about self-empowerment, talked about control, but didn't deliver it. In short, they kind of took the people of Essex for fools. And so it's no surprise that when they then empowered Essex man and woman with a vote on the referendum, they gave their view very clearly and with bells on.
The government needs to come out now and say this is a positive thing, we're going to deal with this. Because if they don't, and they do start backtracking, and we do come up to more elections, I know businessmen that I know, very experienced businessmen as well, actually voted UKIP in the last election.
I wouldn't underestimate Theresa May.
Modern history has taught our politicians that if you can connect with Essex, then you stand a pretty good chance of connecting with the country. But on the evidence of June the 23rd, Essex is not only disconnected, it's in danger of being permanently cut off.
So Essex has made its view clear, loud and proud. But if the new government fails to deliver more control and fails to solve the Rubik's Cube-like problem of how to deliver lower immigration, this county may have more to say. The battle for Essex has only just begun.